1960s Britain built some of the most desirable luxury cars in the world: Jaguar, Rover, Daimler. These were names associated with wealth, status, and engineering pride. But behind the polished chrome, walnut dashboards, and leather seats were some cars that never quite lived up to the promise. Some were brilliant machines trapped inside the wrong company. Some were expensive cars hiding humble mechanical roots, and some simply arrived too late, too old-fashioned, or too poorly understood to succeed. Today, we're counting down 5 British luxury cars that promised the world but quietly let their buyers down. And when we reach number 1, we'll see why Jaguar's own American distributor reportedly had a brutal nickname for its flagship. Let's begin with number 5. Number 5, the Vanden Plas Princess R. Imagine opening the bonnet of an ordinary-looking British saloon and discovering a Rolls-Royce engine underneath. That was the basic idea behind the Princess R. The car came from an ambitious partnership originally intended to create a smaller, more affordable Bentley for younger executive buyers. But the partnership collapsed. Rolls-Royce walked away. BMC didn't. Instead, BMC took its compact Austin Westminster body and installed a 3.9-litre Rolls-Royce straight 6, producing 175 brake horsepower. On paper, it sounded extraordinary, a Rolls-Royce engine in a car that cost far less than an actual Rolls-Royce. It should have been a winning formula, but luxury buyers weren't simply paying for horsepower, they were paying for reputation, refinement, and confidence that their expensive car would behave like an expensive car. And that's where the Princess R struggled. Reliability problems affected the drivetrain, while BMC's dealer network couldn't deliver the ownership experience expected at this level. Worse still, the price put it dangerously close to the Jaguar Mark X, and Jaguar already had the image, international reputation, and showroom appeal that BMC desperately lacked. Only around 6,500 Princess R cars were built before production ended in 1968. A genuine Rolls-Royce heart had been placed inside a body that many buyers simply couldn't trust. Number 4, the Austin 3-litre. This may be one of the clearest examples of a British luxury car arriving at exactly the wrong moment. The Austin 3-litre was intended to challenge cars like the Rover P5B and Triumph 2500. It came with power steering, self-leveling suspension, switchable overdrive, and plenty of equipment designed to appeal to the executive buyer. The problem? The car had already been waiting for years. A prototype had appeared as early as 1963, but production was delayed. By the time the Austin finally reached showrooms in 1967, its design looked like it belonged to an earlier part of the decade. Under the bonnet was a 2.9-litre 6-cylinder engine producing around 124 brake horsepower. That wasn't much for a car weighing nearly 1.5 tons, and the competition was getting tougher. British Leyland's own dealers struggled to explain exactly where the Austin 3-litre fitted into the market. It wasn't quite prestigious enough to challenge the Rover. It wasn't exciting enough to attract younger buyers, and it wasn't modern enough to stand out. The car was eventually dropped in 1971. The Austin 3-litre wasn't necessarily a terrible car. Its real problem was that Britain had already moved on by the time it arrived. Number 3, the Daimler Majestic Major. This is where things get interesting because unlike some of the other cars on this list, the Majestic Major had the engineering to back up its luxury image. Under the bonnet was a 4.6-litre V8 producing around 220 brake horsepower. And this wasn't just a big number on a brochure. The Majestic Major could reach around 120 miles per hour. It was actually quicker than the much better-known Jaguar Mark X. So why didn't it become a huge success? Because the problem wasn't the engine, it was everything surrounding it. Jaguar had acquired Daimler in 1960, largely for its factory facilities. The company had little interest in turning Daimler into a serious competitor to Jaguar, and the Majestic Major didn't help itself visually. Its upright formal styling looked increasingly old-fashioned beside Jaguar's sleek Mark X. Then came the biggest problem of all. It simply wasn't pushed hard enough. Marketing was limited, international sales were weak, and Jaguar had little incentive to promote a car that could potentially compete with its own products. The result was tiny production. Only around 1,180 Majestic Major saloons were built over 8 years. Jaguar eventually allowed production to wind down in 1968. The strangest part, the car had a genuinely brilliant engine. It simply belonged to a company that had already decided it wasn't worth fighting fighting for. Number 2, the Rover P5B. Now this one deserves a little more sympathy because the Rover P5B wasn't a bad luxury car, far from it. It was one of Britain's most accomplished executive cars of its era. It had an all-aluminium V8, a refined interior, and an image strong enough to attract the Queen and successive British Prime Ministers. So what went wrong? The answer wasn't engineering, it was image. The P5 had first appeared in 1958, and although Rover continued updating it, the basic shape remained remarkably conservative. Its upright three-box body looked increasingly old-fashioned beside Jaguar's sleek Mark X. And by the time the V8-powered P5B arrived in 1967, the world around it had changed. The younger executive buyer wanted something sharper, something more modern, something that looked like it belonged to the future, rather than the previous decade. The P5B still delivered comfort, refinement, and impressive road manners. But luxury isn't only about what a car can do, it's about what the car says about its owner. And the P5B was beginning to say something increasingly unfashionable. It looked like the old establishment. For many buyers, that was enough to make it less desirable than its newer rivals. The P5B wasn't a failure of engineering, it was a failure of timing and perception. And now, number 1, the Jaguar Mark X. 6 months after the E-Type stunned the motoring world, Jaguar revealed another ambitious machine, but this time it wasn't a sports car. It was a flagship luxury saloon. Sir William Lyons wanted the Mark X to conquer America, and Jaguar had given it almost everything. It was huge, it was luxurious, it was technically sophisticated, and beneath the bonnet was Jaguar's famous XK Straight 6. On paper, this should have been a winner, but America didn't respond the way Jaguar expected. At almost 2 meters wide, the Mark X was enormous, even by American standards. Yet instead of looking spectacular, its styling increasingly appeared conservative to American buyers. And the bigger problem was that Jaguar had misjudged what American customers wanted from a luxury car of this size. The Mark X was sophisticated, but it struggled to deliver the effortless performance and effortless image expected in the American luxury market. By 1963, Jaguar's own American distributor was reportedly calling the car the Lemon. That is an extraordinary label for a company's flagship. Jaguar tried to fight back. In 1966, the car received a facelift and a new name, the 420G, but the damage had already been done. Sales remained weak. By 1969, production had slowed to barely 30 cars a week leaving Coventry. The car that was supposed to establish Jaguar as a serious American luxury contender had instead become one of the company's biggest commercial disappointments of the decade. And that is what makes the Mark X so fascinating. It wasn't a terrible car, it was an ambitious car that misunderstood its market. 5 cars, 5 completely different kinds of disappointment. The Princess R had a Rolls-Royce heart, but couldn't convince buyers to trust the package around it. The Austin 3 Litre arrived too late and looked old before it had a chance. The Majestic Major had one of Britain's finest V8s, but Jaguar never truly wanted it to succeed. The Rover P5B was an excellent luxury car, trapped inside an increasingly outdated image. And the Jaguar Mark X? It aimed at America and simply misunderstood what America wanted. And perhaps that's the biggest lesson from all 5. In the luxury car business, engineering is only half the battle. A car can have a brilliant engine, beautiful materials, and impressive technology. But if the price, image, timing, or company behind it is wrong, even a great car can become a disappointment. And yes, there's one other problem many of these British cars had in common. They could rust like nobody's business. But that's a story for another day. Which of these 5 surprised you the most? Was it the Rolls-Royce powered Princess R, the overlooked Daimler, the stubbornly old-fashioned Rover, or Jaguar's ambitious Mark X? Let us know in the comments. And if you want to discover 5 more forgotten British cars that promised far more than they delivered, let us know. Because there's plenty more hidden in Britain's motoring past. This is Britain Rewind. Until then, keep looking back.